Hey guys, my name is Russ Fitzpatrick. I'm the host today for Renovation Real Estate Certification, brought to you by AnnieMac Works and the AnnieMac Works Real Estate Productivity Platform. This is a free course. There's no charge to become certified as a residential real estate agent under the Reno certification. So you don't have to write a check today. There's no upgrades that you're going to pay for. There's nothing to sign up for. It's just an olive branch to the real estate community in a format we call the National Lunch and Learn League. So once a month, we broadcast live here on the Facebook page. This is a new phenomenon for us. We've been issuing recorded versions for the past 2 years during the COVID pandemic so that people could watch them on demand. But this particular StreamYard broadcast on our Facebook page is going to be the new way that we bring hundreds and hundreds of realtors together. This is the first time we've done it this way, so not everyone is in the loop with the fact that we're going to be broadcasting our National Lunch and Learn League from StreamYard onto Facebook, onto our other social media platforms. If you're a realtor, I want to welcome you here as a guest of AnnieMac Home Mortgage. My name is Russ Fitzpatrick, and I'm the host for Renovation Real Estate Certification. It is just now 12:30, so I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get on with it. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you what I hope will be valuable information, and I'll let you know that I've been a realtor for 34 years. Oh, my goodness gracious. I put 5 kids through private school and college, and now I'm here to help you become a renovation real estate agent or a Reno realtor. I like to start out with a little bit of background. I've done about 14 renovation projects in my 34-year real estate career, and some of them as recent as sitting in this cottage that I'm sitting in the Smoky Mountain National Park region of North Carolina. We've been working on this reno project for about 18 months, and I'm going to show you some of the details of it here. But if you remember, Joanne Gaines in Waco, Texas, was a realtor way before she was America's Sweetheart Renovation Queen on Fixer Uppers, or the Property Brothers up in the Northeast are renovation specialists. All of these folks have one thing in common, and they're all realtors. They're all licensed realtors. But you're driving around with buyers and you can't find them the perfect home. I want to show you how you're going to be able to open up some inventory and really release some newly created equity for your buyers in a renovation real estate certification using the skill set of renovation real estate to help your consumers purchase distressed, abandoned, and rundown properties. Previously, these types of properties were only available to cash buyers. And, the reality is that now the federal government insured lending programs and the low money down conventional lending programs have kind of caught up to the reality that some people with 3 to 5% to put down would still like to buy a renovation project. So they created some rules. When I was a realtor, you couldn't sell a house if it didn't have any appliances. You couldn't get a mortgage if it didn't have a good roof or new AC or a working air conditioning system. Even the houses that needed TLC, little things like flooring and paint and kitchens and bathrooms and windows and doors, termite issues, plumbing, would stop a mortgage in its tracks in 1986 through 2005 when I was selling real estate every single day in Southeast Florida. But if you become a certified reno realtor or a certified renovation realtor with AnnieMac Home Mortgage, you're going to be able to help buyers, help borrowers, and to go ahead and buy some of these handyman specials, as you refer to them, or your lender at AnnieMac Home Mortgage offers a solution. The solution is called FHA 203K or home style renovation lending. So specifically how it works is you just need to look at a house like that one on the right and use your creative imagination. What could that house look like if somebody put $50,000 or $75,000 into it? We have a method. In fact, it's a requirement of some of the bigger project programs that we assign a HUD consultant, a professional guide, so that before you even write your offer, and certainly before you consummate a real estate transaction on one of these projects, that your borrowers are going to get a HUD guide assigned to them to help them through the process. They're also going to get appraisal contingencies built in, so that if the appraisal doesn't leave room for the repairs, that no one moves forward with it. You can also protect yourself when you're analyzing a project with a 10-day or 2-week inspection and repair clause. You might say to me right now that you can't do that in today's market, but the reality is on distressed properties, REO properties, bank-owned properties, divorces, probates, some of these lesser maintained vacant and abandoned homes, you can do that. And some of these properties won't even be on the market when you find them as a realtor. But the reality is the due diligence is absolutely the secret to success for any renovation project. And they can be a lot of fun. My family has done many where my kids have helped. We did a project down in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'll call it New Orleans for everybody who's from that area. Who dat? Building equity. Paid $107,000 for a house. I did a $65,000 repair and renovation to the house, and it was $113,000 in instant equity. This is not a lark. This is not a feb. We did sell that house for $285,000 after putting $172,000 into it. I personally can't make a living doing flips because of the uncertainty of the time frame that some of them are under, and the inability to find vendors in 2022. So I couldn't do 6 or 8 or 10 of them a year and make $600,000 or $1 million a year personally. It's just too much labor, and there's not enough in it for me to hold tremendous amounts of equity. But take away the get-rich-quick scheme for just a moment and think about a family that's literally shopping for a home to live in, and draw a line between an abandoned home that they can buy for $107,000, $135,000, $185,000. And as long as the neighborhood makes sense for them, get them into that house with a renovation lending product that can fund, listen carefully, not only can some renovation loans can fund all the renovation included in one monthly payment, but moreover, it'll pay your mortgage payment, could pay your mortgage payment for up to 6 months while the renovation is taking place. So let's say a family is still renting in a neighborhood down the street, but they got to get the project done before they can move in. You can configure a renovation loan that can even pay the mortgage payments potentially for the owner of the home until the renovations are done. I'm sitting in a cottage in Western Carolina near the Smoky Mountain National Park. This house was bought for $90,000, and it would have qualified for Streamline, which means you don't have to have a HUD consultant. You don't have to have all these doled out benchmarks. If you're under $35,000 in renovations, which this one was, we could have done a Streamline and put $30,000 into it that the mortgage would have covered, and we would have had $120,000 into the project. Well, when we were done with that $30,000 investment into this little cottage in Western Carolina, which has a magnificent view over the mountains, it's ideal for an Airbnb, but it's also ideal for my family to use as a vacation home. The realtor said when we were finished, it was worth $185,000. So based on the local realtor, after the $30,000 in renovations were done, we had a product that was worth $185,000. So we had about $60,000 in instant equity in this project. And then once my wife and I saw the finished product, we're like, we want to put more into it. So we added a deck and a jacuzzi and another huge closet and a storage separate building for storage. And the new appraisal came in January at 3.25. So with the first 30,000, we brought it up to 185. With another 40 grand, we got it to be worth $325,000, and we're living in it off season. You don't have to be a genius to know that there's a lot of adrenaline coursing through the buyers about renovation. So if you're a realtor and you're not bringing up renovation to your clients because you don't think that they would qualify, or you don't think that they would want a project, you're missing a huge slice of the market. I mean, shoot, all you have to do is turn on HDTV for 5 minutes and you see these unbelievable stories of dream houses being created out of wrecks. And your buyers are seeing those as well. So our advice to realtors is to understand renovation lending. And, so many of you have too many buyers, but not enough listings to show. Well, imagine you're showing a buyer houses from 350 to 400, and there's just nothing that they like. But then when you show them a house for 260 to 325, and they could put in another 50 into it, all of a sudden that house could be their dream house. Okay. So you have to think openly about different subdivisions, different communities, different price points, and then learn if there's some opportunity to renovate to the dream home rather than to be stuck in someone else's design. If you can become open to having these conversations, number one, I think it'll ingratiate you to more buyers, because even if a buyer doesn't elect to move down the renovation path, just knowing that you have renovation and staging or pet-friendly real estate, or you have these add value skills as part of your product offering as a residential real estate agent, and you have the opportunity to help them create instant equity. I think it's all about this last paragraph on this page, and that's step out from the sea of sameness. In my market, there was about 60,000 realtors that I was competing with. I needed renovation products and renovation advice and expertise to differentiate myself from other realtors. I needed to become an expert and have the answers and present solutions. If I'm just going to be a clerk to take them from the MLS search to a listing, I've got one level of value. But if I can show them and expand their options, monumentally expand their purchasing options and the inventory that I'm able to show them, I think that I can be a better realtor for them. So maybe if you drove up to that house with the skid steer in front of it or the backhoe in front of it, you might say, that's not a house that I would even consider living in. But if a little brick paver driveway were put in front of that house right now on the right, you'd say, man, that's not a bad little house to call my very own. And this was a project that was financed through a renovation loan. So let's simplify the conversation just for a minute. Renovation loans are simply purchasing the property or refinancing a current property. But for the purpose of our realtors, I want to focus on purchasing. You're out shopping for a house for $300,000. You can't find anything, but lo and behold, you buy a house for $260,000 and you get a $50,000 renovation loan attached to it, so you can do the rehab all in one loan. That's all we're talking about doing here. Instant equity is one of the goals, but I think lifestyle is an equally important goal. But if we're going to summarize a couple of the examples of instant equity, we purchased a house under renovation lending for $255,000 with a reno budget just under streamline at $34,500. You have to keep your reno budget under $35,000 to stay streamlined. The after improved budget was $300,000 real time, and that was simply $10,000 in extra equity for that consumer. Another one was a purchase for $135,000. The reno budget was not a streamline; it was a standard renovation product, and they put $66,000 in it for a total after improved appraised value of $235,000. And all of a sudden, the consumer was high-fiving at the closing table after the renovations were done with $33,000 in additional equity just sitting there. And the payments weren't that much different. I want to stress, in the affordable housing community, some of these families that you're working with don't have the money for new appliances even, or new flooring, or hi-hat lighting to be installed. An inexpensive project with only $20,000, $30,000 worth of repairs doesn't change the monthly mortgage payment that much. So if you look at that kind of, bored and tired, below average kitchen on the left, and you say, hey, without much money, we made this a much, much more attractive product for the end buyer. That was a difference of about 60, 70 bucks in mortgage payment per month. If I showed the rental on the left for $1,000 a month and I showed the rental on the right for $1,200 a month, that the tenant would pay more for the nicer one on the right. This is a little teeny repairs. This was a $954 a month payment without renovation. And with a renovation loan, it was $1,051 a month payment. And that finished all that drywall, put in all the new lighting, made that whole loft just a more usable, consumer-facing friendly space. And the consumer really didn't even notice. Before we did the reno loan, they thought their payment was going to be about $1,000 a month. After we did the renovation loan, their payment was about $1,000 a month. It wasn't significant in their monthly payment. A couple that were a little bigger projects that we've done, you're selling somebody a house and they could buy it as is for $1,201 a month, or they can buy it renovated for $1,401 a month. It wasn't a bad choice for them to get a fully renovated home for the same price. And you could see that we did new siding and painted it. And in this case, I don't even think it needed a new roof. But another project we did, a little bigger project where the interior had to be renovated in that. You show your client, look, you could buy this house for $1,502 a month straight, or I can finance in 6 months of renovations for you and maybe even make your mortgage payment for 6 months while you're living in your apartment. Or if they're a more DIY type consumer, maybe they want to live in the master and use the kitchen while the rest of the house is being renovated. I mean, you got to be creative and you got to think these things through with your consumers. But if you want to add value to your consumers, here's a way to take a project and you want to pay $1,800 a month to live in this beautiful home, or do you want to pay $1,500 a month to live in that one? This is especially relevant. This particular thing chapped my rear end for 34 years. The myth is that only cash buyers, only the rich can get richer. Your buyers are scrambling around with 3.5%, 5% down. They're getting locked out of offers because everybody else is buying cash or has better mortgages. But if you go down to an REO property, many of those REO asset managers are incentivized to sell these properties to owner-occupied buyers. So your offer actually stands out from the crowd because you're not a potential investor, buyer, flip, hard money guy, and you're actually now you can use a standard FHA conventional mortgage program. You work with your realtor. Your buyers can work with you as their realtor. And of course, you can look for active listings in the MLS, but now you can go to estate sales and probate cases and divorces and liquidation properties. You can do bank-owned and government-owned houses that are for sale. If you've never visited auction.com as a realtor, you're missing a tremendous amount of inventory that's available for your buyers. And if you write a buyer brokerage agreement and you bring the buyer agency to that level, you can represent your client to buy some of these houses. I sold a house to a teacher, a Broward County School Board teacher on auction.com. And on that particular property, they were offering a commission. So don't forget about auction.com and the government HUD sites and bank-owned houses that are for sale. With this product, you can participate in live auctions and you can help your borrowers. This is not just for REO bank-owned properties. It's very important. There's a few things that are going to be on the quiz in order to become certified. not just for REO bank-owned properties, is one of the first ones. You can buy distressed, divorced properties and estate sales using renovation lending as well. So as we're getting into the nuts and bolts now and what you need to know to really become certified, the first thing is that the titles are either FHA 203K, FHA 203K Limited, or Home Style. On Limited, you can go up to $35,000 in non-structural repairs as part of the loan. There's no consultant required for if you're doing less than $35,000. The way it works is they're going to give you a check about 5 to 7 days after closing so that you can start to make your repairs. And then the balance of the check is paid out to you and a vendor, whoever your contractor is, when the project is complete. So most of these type limited or streamlined, as they used to be called, projects last about 6 months or less. Most of them are actually done in 45 days. And for the purposes of your exam or quiz at the end of this, yes, you can include septic in an FHA 203K limited project. So an example would be find a fixer-upper for $285, get a mortgage for $320, and do the repairs with the difference, right? Some other facts that are going to be part of the exam on the FHA 203K standard or home style. This is for bigger renovations, structural renovations and repairs that are needed on the house. When you've got to get into moving walls, replacing roofs, putting in new HVAC or septic, bigger projects, big dollar projects, you need what's called a HUD consultant. The HUD consultant is assigned to you to do what's called a spec of repairs or a specification of repairs. So in these cases, if the HUD consultant and you agree that the house is going to need $30,000 worth of work, well, shoot, it would have qualified for Streamline then. But if you did, they're going to give you 3 draws at $10,000 a piece. If the HUD consultant and you together determine that there's close to $50,000 in work that needs to be done to the house, then you've got 4 draws that are coming in over the next 6 months. And last but not least, if there are more than $50,000, and we've done them with $65,000 and $80,000 worth of repairs to be done, there's usually 5 draws in a standard or home style renovation project where there's going to be 5 draws. In all of these cases, 6 months or less is the time frame for one of these renovation projects. So an example of a larger standard home style or a renovation project would be you're buying a house for $3.25 and you're still taking out a mortgage for $385, and you're protected by the fact that there's a HUD consultant assigned to the project to make sure nobody's going to get burnt. You're not going to borrow more money than what the house is going to be worth when it's renovated. There's what's called future repaired value. And it allows the appraiser to say, okay, well, if the roof was done and the plumbing was done. In fact, I just bought a house. You're going to laugh at me. I bought a house for $38,000 in Phoenix City, Alabama. This was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, but it wasn't able to be sold practically on the market because the roof was shot. There was no air conditioning system. There were no appliances. The flooring had holes that went right to the ground. The house was just a wreck. In fact, we came to learn that the plumbing wasn't even hooked up to the municipal sewage or plumbing. It was an absolute wreck. Well, nobody was making offers on this house. So I came in and offered $35,000 on a $38,000 asking price, and I got the house. Lo and behold, I probably could have got it for $30,000, but I offered $35,000 like an idiot. At the end of the day, I put $8,400 into a plumbing project that made the house instantly worth $60,000. And now I'm in the process of doing the cosmetic renovations that'll make it worth $120,000 when I'm done. It's a small project. The reason I bought the project was for my niece to live in. She lives in Columbus, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama is right around the corner from it. So at the end of the project, she'll have a nice home with a yard to live in, and I'll have a nice equity position in it. A couple more facts for the exam study guide. 3% is the minimum down for first-time home buyers, and 5% if they're not a first-time home buyer, at least under this particular product that we're featuring right now. If your client wishes to only finance 80%, then they can avoid mortgage insurance. They don't have to pay the PMI mortgage insurance or the MI mortgage insurance, and they can opt out of escrows. So some of your cash wealthy investors think they're so smart buying cash. But when you see interest rates in the 4s, you realize that nowhere in the history of the American economy could you buy appliances at 4% or roofing contractors at 4%. So you might as well just take out the mortgage. And in order to avoid mortgage insurance, 80% loan to value is where you avoid the mortgage insurance. A couple more topics before we release you to take the exam. Another benefit of this being this particular product being a conventional loan is you can do primary homes, your primary residence. You can do a vacation home like the one we're doing here in North Carolina, or you can even do an investment property like the one we're doing down in Phoenix City. So you don't have to live in the house to use renovation lending products. You can even build a pool as part of your renovation project. You can build one of those sick Bobby Flay outdoor kitchens. I love the one that Guy Fieri has in his backyard that he's been filming from. It makes you feel like $1 million, and the kitchen probably only cost him, well, his might have cost $150, but you can do a beautiful one for $20,000 or $30,000, and those outdoor kitchens are allowed. Couple more exam study items. If you're getting ready to do roof, HVAC, and water damage, just think about it common sense wise. You're going to look on your exam. It would not typically qualify for streamlined. If you see the words roof, HVAC, and water damage, you're probably not going to be thinking streamlined. You're going to probably need a consultant, and you're probably do it as a standard reno loan. When writing a contract, do not include the renovation budget, just the purchase price. The seller doesn't need to know anything about it other than the fact that you've got an inspection period and you're going to do your due diligence during that inspection period, and you're going to buy the house for X number of dollars on contract. You do not include the renovation budget in the contract as a realtor. If it is true, you're going to look for a true and false question on your exam, that the scope of repair or the specification of repair is actually broken down into 3 parts. There's what the HUD consultants calls mandatory, meaning you can't even live in this house. I can't even finance this house. I can't even consider this house to be renovated unless these mandatory repairs are done. Number 2, there's some recommended repairs that we would think should be done. And then last but not least, there's some desired repairs, meaning some repairs that the consumer really wants to do, but they're not mandatory, and I'm not recommending them, but the consumer would really like to see a 2-car garage on this house or whatever the idea of the desired repairs that are broken down. So if you see a question on your exam that has the word SOR, that is specification of repair, and it is true that it's broken down into 3 parts. Your contractors that do the work need to be well funded. They need to qualify to be a contractor. They need to understand how they're going to get paid because of the way the draws are paid out. And most contractors are willing to do that. And they also need to provide some references for the HUD consultant to be approved to be on this project. But one thing they don't need to own their own backhoe. If you see a multiple choice question on your quiz, they do not need to have a backhoe. Just a few more study exam items for you, kind of just the facts, real easy to remember. Reno loans are not only for REO. That's just one sector that you can buy. Reno loans can buy 1 to 4 units, meaning if you have a quadplex or a triplex or a duplex, you can buy a single family home. And the big surprise for me, I did not know this going into this, you can use it for mixed use, meaning if there's a store with a house on top of it and the owner of the store lives in it like the good old days, you can go in and do a renovation loan on that mixed use property. That's exciting for a lot of our folks in Philadelphia and New York and Michigan. You're not allowed to do apartment complexes though. So stay away from that. On the answers, yes, you can do mixed use. I did say it earlier, septic is okay for reno loans, and you can convert a single family home into a multifamily, or you can convert a multifamily back to a single family. In New Orleans, we were dealing with a multifamily double, and we turned it into a single family. In other areas, you might be looking at a single family. We did a project in Plantation. Our family did a project in Plantation where it was a single family home, but they actually turned it into a duplex so that they could have a guest home that was separate from them. So you're allowed to convert from single family back to multifamily. The only terminology that they don't like is the term flips. You know, you could be an investor, but you're not looking to churn and burn these. You're looking to hold them for a period of time. I won't get into the loopholes and conversations about that, but you learn how to do that over time. What is the next step for our mortgage professionals? If you're a mortgage professional who's with AnnieMac or not with AnnieMac, and you're not familiar with these win-win relationships that you can create with your real estate referral partners, then you've got to start to give before getting and help your real estate professionals sell more houses. So reach out to me, Russ at AnnieMacWorks.com. If you're a realtor in town, feel free to jot that down. I'm happy to take an email from you to answer specific questions, Russ at AnnieMacWorks.com. And for realtors, which I hope most of the people who are online today are realtors, you're going to take a little quiz. We're going to print you a renovation certification, and then you're going to be able to help your most challenging buyers and sellers. And before I move on from this, at the risk of rattling on, when you meet a seller that has a distressed property, it's very easy to wholesale his property out to an investor, but it's a greater service to your seller when you can help them find buyers who are principal owners and sell at a higher price because they're buying it to live in. They're not just buying it to renovate and flip. So they're not as critical about the retail price. So what you do is you show your seller how you're going to market it as a renovation project at $185, whereas if you market it as a wholesale product at $155, of course it's going to sell. But if you can show what the renovations are going to look like, and most importantly for your buyers, not to be redundant here, you've got an opportunity to take a buyer who's suffering tremendous frustration with multiple offers. Sometimes you're writing 20, 30 offers on houses and never getting them. Well, back off, relook at this situation, go to a renovation project that's not selling as fast, and make a reasonable offer that you can include your renovation dollars in, and you can help your most challenged buyers and sellers. Just go click on the QR code on your screen. If you don't have a QR reader on your telephone, there is a link there. So take a picture of that and then just type that link into your phone. I'll put it back up on the screen in just a moment. But every single one of the attendees today, if you complete the exam, will receive a certificate of completion granted to you from AnnieMac Home Mortgage as a renovation real estate certified realtor. It'll be dated and signed for you to show to your buyers and sellers. So it's not a difficult exam. You can see the fine print there of the URL. If you take a picture of that and you don't have a QR code reader, you'll be able to go to take the certification by going to the final exam 131276. For now, I will tell you that I'm your host and the one of the founders of the AnnieMac Works Real Estate Productivity Platform. It's our responsibility to get together for a half an hour on the first Wednesday of every month at noon. I'm 3 minutes over budget. I like to keep these under a half hour, but it is my privilege and it is my pleasure to let you know that at AnnieMac Home Mortgage, our success truly is measured by your success as a real estate professional. And we invest heavily in our real estate referral relationships. If you were invited by a mortgage banker today, let them know what you thought about it. If your mortgage professional at AnnieMac told you about this and you came, please reach out to that loan officer and let them know that you appreciated the opportunity to learn how to use renovation products. Like us on Facebook if you're watching it today. Like us and maybe subscribe, because we do this once a month on the first Wednesday of every month. Thanks.